In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint my take on an old out of production Clan Skryre Skaven Seer, which I picked up on eBay for £8. Hi folks, Darren from WARPSTONE is here, and with this tutorial we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm fortunate enough to be part of a fantastic Discord community called the YouTube Creators Brain Trust, where we encourage each other to grow by getting involved in joint collaborations and such like. This video is my first foray into one of those collaborations, albeit a little bit late. Sorry about that guys. The task was to snap up a mini from eBay for a bargain price, paint it up, list it once it's done and see if you can beat the original purchase price. A challenge definitely not inspired by Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues, who is part of the group by the way, so it's all cool, it's all cool. I had been sitting on this model for a few years now and took this as a perfect opportunity to get involved in this collaboration, as well as actually put some paint down on the model. As Jamie from Miniocalypse says, fighting that grey war. I'm personally not a fan of metal minis. I think I'm a little bit spoiled by the new detailed plastic sculpts, but I think this turned out pretty good. Anyway, enough of me waffling, let's get to it. The model itself comes in two parts, the body and the head. I kept them separate and primed them with Mechanica Standard Grey spray before grabbing a medium base brush and slapping a few thin coats of Celestial Grey over the robes. Don't worry about being too neat though, as you can tidy this up as you go along. Next up, paint the collar and the tabard bits with STEBADON Scale Green, my favourite Games Workshop colour. I try to be a bit neater with this so I don't have to go back over with Celestial Grey. Do you have a favourite paint colour? If so, let me know in the comments below. Switching to a small detailed brush, I paint all the parchment, claws, teeth and horns on his head with ZANDRI dust. Don't forget the scrolls hidden under his pointy arm. Sweaty Ratman armpit, nice. You might notice that I originally painted the string of his necklace with ZANDRI dust, but I changed my mind and painted it with RHINOX hide instead. That way it kind of separated from all the parchment I'd already done. With this colour, I also painted the little rat on top of the WARPSTONE, the wood of his staff, his various bags of I don't want to knows, and the inside of his sleeves. It looks a bit odd leaving the sleeves just Celestial Grey, and I think painting them with RHINOX hide gives them a good sense of depth. Now onto the skin. I slapped some BUGMANS glow all over the fleshy parts. If you left the head off, like me, or it fell off, as you saw, don't forget to paint his face and snout. Oh, and the little rat on top of the WARPSTONE, he needs his skin painted too. I grabbed some CALIBAN green and painted the WARPSTONE on top of the staff and the super small one dangling from his pointy arm. Yes, that is a WARPSTONE too. I thought it was a piece of metal flashing at first, luckily I didn't remove it. You might need a few thin coats of this paint to get a good strong finish. I then used BALTHASAR gold for all the metallic bits, so the fancy design is a style collar thing, the talismans around his neck and waist. Don't forget to replace your water at this point, as you don't want your gnarly Skaven to be all sparkly. Unless you do, then go nuts. At this point, all the base colours are down. Now we get to have some fun by smothering it all with Agrax Earthshade using a medium shade brush. More the better, I reckon, as it really makes the model look grimy and dirty. You'll also notice that I've stuck the head on. At this stage, I'm not too bothered about painting the inner part of the collar or the back of the head, as it won't be really visible. This is something new I'm trying, as I have a tendency to paint all the bits, and honestly sometimes you just don't need to. Once the Agrax Earthshade has been given a good 40 minutes to dry, I'd say 40 to 60 minutes, I come back in with CELESTRA Grey and a small detail brush to re-establish the base colour, but at the same time ensuring that the recesses remain dirtied. I also did a light overbrush of this colour on the Seer's fur, as I wanted to give him like an albino look. Then with some Ulthwan Grey, I add some further highlights to the areas that are more pronounced, as well as an even lighter overbrush on his fur. As with the previous step, I re-established the base colour of ZANDRI dust on the parchment, claws, teeth and horns. Leave those recesses full of shade to ensure you create that depth. I grabbed some KARAK stone and highlighted the leather bags and pouches. More importantly, I used this paint to highlight the staff. I picked up all the raised areas where the wood had been carved and painted those lines in. It took a while, but I think it turned out cool. What I didn't record is an overbrush of the KARAK stone on the fur of the little rat, because I'm super pro and you can tell by the kind of camera angles that I'm going for here. Switching over to the skin, I used some CADIAN FLESHTONE to start to bring those highlights up. I used the same colour to paint the flesh on the little rat boy too. I used pallid witch flesh for the final highlight on the skin. I wasn't happy with the end result, so I brought in some KISLEV flesh to make the skin look a bit more warmer. I think it's important to show the mistakes in the process and that it can be changed if you want. It's only paint after all, you can just paint over it. Back over to the parchment, claws, teeth and horns area now. Using some USHABTI bone, I add a further highlight to add to the contrast. Once this has been done, those areas are now finished. Focusing back on the tabard now, I do a thick edge highlight of KABALITE green, particularly in the areas light would hit the most. Followed up by a finer edge highlight of SYBARITE green. Tabard done. I really love the contrast these greens have against the CELESTRA grey. I think it looks really cool. In my opinion, of course. Now for the bit I had the most fun with, the WARPSTONE. I tidied up the stone itself using CALIBAN green once again, focusing primarily on the areas the light is hitting. This will set you up for a simple transition from the dark shaded colour to the lighter ones. Grabbing some WARPSTONE glow, I started to follow the facet lines on the stone as an edge highlight of sorts. Take your time with this one, the neater the better. Also try to focus the paint more where those facet lines meet, you'll see why in a minute. Next, using MOOT green, I highlighted those facets further, focusing the paint closer to where those lines meet. This gives the illusion that the piece of WARPSTONE has been worked roughly like a piece of Stone Age flint. I then finish off the highlights with some Gauze Blaster Green, focusing right in the centre where the lines meet. This bit isn't particularly necessary if you don't want to do it, but I think it pushes the contrast a little bit further, which I feel is important on things like gems, jewels, glass or eye lenses. Last few steps now, as well as a cheeky little bonus step at the end. Using RHINOX hide again, I did some freehand script on the main parchment. It in no way needs to be super neat, as doing it rough adds to the character. That's my excuse anyway. I then grabbed some LEADBELCHER and just did a simple edge highlight on the metallic areas just to make them pop a bit. Okay, I lied, there is no bonus step. What I meant to do was record the fact I painted the eyes with Mephiston red, but I didn't. So if you want the albino look, make sure you do that, yeah? Make sure you do that. Just dab it on the eye, as the aggregate shade we did earlier will already have set the groundwork for the shadow in the eye sockets. Once you've done the last few details and all the bits that I forgot to do, yeah, sorry about that. All that is left is to base the model the same as the rest of your army. And there we have it, an old school Skaven Seer painted in the scheme of Clan Skryre. The eBay listing is up right now if you want to bid on the model, and as I said before, I will put a link to that in the description below. For those of you who don't necessarily use Citadel paints, I have a link to a handy paint conversion chart in the description below also. I recommend you check that out, and that way you can kind of compare those paints that I use with other brands. All that is left for me to do is say thank you to each and every one of you for watching. It really does mean a lot. Also, a massive shout out to the folks in the YouTube Creators Brain Trust Discord server for letting me be involved. I will also link all the channels involved in this collaboration in the description below. Thank you once again, and don't forget to like, subscribe and click that bell to never miss a video.